If someone tells you that you don't care about the victims of murder and gun violence because you don't like the idea of compromising somebody else's Second Amendment rights, here's how to handle the situation. First, break eye contact, keep your eyes on their hands, and then slowly back away. When you're about 30 feet apart, turn around and run because you're dealing with a crazy person. My advice would be to seek shelter where rationality is safe, someplace like this, because you've come to take the gold pill. The two major parties in the media can no longer be expected to represent our interests. They control the information we receive in order to keep us comfortable with their profits and with their power. Comfort is not what I offer, only the truth, nothing more. This week, the debate over gun control legislation is back in the news. Why? Is it because gun violence was up last week? No. Is it because gun sales were up last week? No. It is, of course, because mass shootings are back in the news. The murders in Atlanta and in Colorado were both tragic and horrific. They've been dominating the news for days. Why is this? Why is it that mass shootings dominate the news so thoroughly? Is it because they represent a large proportion of violent deaths? No. Is it because they represent a more important public health issue than other violent deaths? No. Then why are they on the news so much? Who decides what news should be covered? Of course, it's the companies that present the news who are also the same companies who decide what gets covered. What is the job of the people who make such decisions? Well, their job is to maximize advertising revenue. Anyone who has ever worked in a news environment for a journalistic organization knows this to be true, whether it's a matter of presenting information in print, television, radio, or online. To maximize advertising revenue, news companies need to maximize viewership, preferably among young and affluent people. News companies are basically in the entertainment business. They are not in the business of presenting information in order to make you better able to analyze public policy alternatives, to weigh the costs and benefits of various constitutional compromises. And why would they be? That's not what motivates us to watch television, for example. Let's be honest. The entertainment value of our news is tied to a number of factors that are more important than educating us, including motivation number one, to make us feel better about ourselves. Consider what is happening this week. I can watch the news, see a horrible story that is easy to package because it's conveniently located in a single geographic location and because it played out in a number of minutes. I can work up a good head of anger and be told that I'm a good person because I do want to do something about it. And I do want to do something about it. I am a good person. I want to stop murder. I don't like murder. And not just because I'm a good person. I also want to stop murders out of self-preservation. These mass killings seem so random. Their victims could have been me, my family. There's a fear factor to these stories. And that fear factor really does not apply to the story of the typical one-on-one shooting. The one-on-one shootings are typically between people who know each other. No one I know is out to kill me. So these stories seem less relevant. Sure, I irritate a lot of people in my family, but heck, my sister doesn't even own a gun. I think I'm good here. The point being that the TV value in these smaller one-on-one shootings between people who know each other is greatly reduced. There's another factor at play that's a little bit more difficult to talk about it, but talk about it we must if we are to be perfectly honest. One-on-one shootings take place not only between people who know each other, but also, disproportionately, within certain demographically defined groups. And not all of these demographically defined groups are the easiest to which our audience can relate. These killings disproportionately affect men, young men of color in poor neighborhoods. So if you're an upscale 39-year-old white female, sure, we want to keep you watching because, frankly, you're in our prime viewing target. But you may have a hard time relating to the victims in most one-on-one shooting stories. And imagine, how would those stories even be told if you were to try? In the United States alone, we have so many gun murders that an hour-long evening news program, allowing for advertising time, would have to spend less than a single minute on each story just to cover one day's worth. Never mind follow-up stories or anything about the investigations or the impact on the families and the communities. From an entertainment point of view, this is not much of a format. Of all the deaths by gun violence in the United States, mass shootings cause only about 1%. So when we get all passionate about gun control a handful of times each year because we're upset about a tiny fraction of the problem, maybe we need to ask ourselves, why? To what extent are we affected by what we hear and read in the media? And to what extent are we motivated to think of ourselves as better than and different from other people? Is it really violent deaths that we dislike, or is it actually guns and the people who own them that we dislike? They're part of the problem. They're not like me. I'm the good one. We would be well served to remember that when you create a system in which you can control other people just because you don't like them, you create a system in which they can control you just because they don't like you. It's not easy to answer the question of whether our differences in policy debates are caused by differences in our honest analysis, or if they're actually caused by differences in our lack of appreciation for someone else's background. But answer this question we must, because the implications for policy are significant. This won't be easy. Our politics has become a battleground. On one side of this battle are politicians and pundits, journalists and jurists, regulators and revisionists, who believe that the government is better able to solve our problems than we are ourselves. On our side of this debate are things like science, history, people like you, people like me, and common sense. Thanks for helping me make this sense a little bit more common. Thanks for coming to take the gold pill. Comfort is not what I offer, only the truth, nothing more.